Now, let's talk about Hedwig. I have not got a script. I am going to edit this, but not overly. Let's just talk about Hedwig for a second. Now, very recently, there was a production of Hedwig and the Angry Inch. It's a show that we don't see very often across the UK. It's a musical that centres around a genderqueer rocker who gets her sex change botched as she's trying to escape from the communist-run East Berlin before the Berlin Wall fell. It's a two-person musical with just a band behind the two leads, mainly a monologue with songs spliced in between, and it's just so beautiful. I think it's a musical that speaks to a lot of us who are gay, who are trans, who are bi, or whatever you fall within the LGBTQ plus umbrella. And I'm surprised that we aren't seeing anything more come out of this recent production with Divina Da Campo. Will we get it? God, I fucking hope so. God, please, if anyone is watching this who has the power to put this in the West End, put it in the West End, please, and thank you. Mwah, big kissy for you. But I think it's just a very important show to put into a bigger space now. So, today, I'm just going to talk about what I would like to see next for Hedwig. Please and thank you. Yes. When you're making a show, of course, you're thinking big. You're thinking high. You're thinking, okay, we want to take this to London's West End. We want to take this to Broadway. We want to stay there for a million years. We want to become the next Les Mis or Mousetrap or whatever. However, I think Hedwig as a show does kind of work better in an intimate space. Going into this theatre that we were in, the Manchester Home, it isn't the smallest theatre, but it isn't the biggest theatre either. It's 3 tiers, but quite intimate. It still feels like quite a nice small space. So if we were to get a West End transfer, I think it'd be nicer to take this to a theatre like the Ambassadors, or where it would really work well is the Arts Theatre. Theatres that are quite small, but have enough seating to justify, you know, a big star like Divina Da Campo. Striking a nice balance of the two. The problem is, the West End at the moment is very... There's a roadblock, basically. That's the best way to describe it. You got all these cars, all these shows trying to get in. However, every theatre is booked and blessed and busy, and no one wants to close at the moment because no one's had a proper run because of COVID. And everyone's trying to get in, but there's just a lineup of cars. Like no one's moving. And a show that was done in like 2 years ago will probably not come to the West End until about 3 years. Even though it's best to get it quickly into the West End, because then you've got your word of mouth, then you've got your marketing, then you've got all of this behind you, all of the hype to get it there. If you wait too long, that hype dies out, and that's the problem that we currently have in the West End. I mean, we're seeing rumours every day, and actually, if you want good rumours, go to Twitter and follow Sean Tossell. Absolute icon, I love him. We're seeing rumours of loads of shows. We've got Broadway shows wanting to come in, like Beetlejuice. We've got loads of off-West End theatres making really great shows, like Spring Awakening at the Almeida, Rent up at the Hope Mill. All of these shows that really want to come down to London and get these big theatres are struggling to do so because of this blockage. And that's why Hedwig may struggle, because there are 2 big factors here. One is the roadblock, and the other one is Divina Da Campo. Now, this is my opportunity to get on my hands and knees and bow to the absolute icon, legend, the moment that is Divina Da Campo. Because as Hedwig, she is probably the strongest person I have seen play that role. Now, of course, we all knew that Divina Da Campo was talented. If you don't know who Divina Da Campo is, Divina Da Campo was the runner-up of RuPaul's Drag Race UK Season 1. On that series, she showed us many talents.
Tell me anybody else in this workroom who has a 4.5 octave range. Tell me anybody else who can sing in 5 languages. Tell me anybody else who can do that all while doing the splits.
And bitch, she can do that. Like, she ain't joking, bitch. She is an extremely talented queen and very humble and very certain within herself. And I think she has just a lot of the perfect elements to play this role where some other queens don't. Of course, having the theatre background, having the musical talents, and having, you know, explored her gender identity. I think even before seeing the production, I kind of knew that she'd be good. But watching it and watching her, my God, she sells every moment in this show. There's a lot of pressure on her as well, because Hedwig is a very demanding role. You are on stage the entire time for an hour and 40 minutes. You are pretty much just doing a monologue with songs spliced in between. There's a lot of emotion you've got to show. There's a lot of yourself that you've got to expose. It is a hard role, and Divina makes it look easy. She is running up and down that stage. She is just performing to the greatest ability that she can. She hits the emotional moments so hard. Whenever she sings The Origin of Love, it feels like she's singing directly to you. It is a powerful performance, and honestly, Olivier worthy. She needs to stay as Hedwig, really. But the problem is, she is booked, busy, blessed, being such a big star from Drag Race, having the fan base that she has, and having all of her drag touring and all of her opportunities she gets from that side of the career, getting the West End stuff and getting that timing so perfect, it's going to be hard. And honestly, I think the producer would be making a big mistake if they recast her, because she deserves another chance. This tour that they just did went to 2 venues, and I think that is such a shame, because it did very well in both of these venues, and I think it could do well beyond. And I think London, or even a certain area of London, not even West End, maybe even somewhere like Soho, would take this show with open arms. And I think it's also interesting to note that this show's never had a chance in the West End. Of course, it's had some off-West End runs. However, it's not a show that's been typically done in these big commercial theatres. The only time it's been done on Broadway, even, because it hasn't been taken to the West End yet, the only time it's been done on Broadway is because they got Neil Patrick Harris in. And of course, big name. We can talk about how he probably shouldn't have played that role because he is a cis gay man, but he got the numbers and he got them to take a chance on the show. I think Divina's a nice balance of everything. Of course, Divina being a celebrity is probably not on the same level as someone like Neil Patrick Harris. However, I think it's enough to sell the show. And if you get it into an area like the Arts Theatre that does these kind of shows aimed at younger audiences, that aimed at queer audiences, I think part of Six's success is down to it being at the Arts in quite a small, intimate theatre that could sell tickets at a slightly lower price and get that word of mouth in before it moved to places like Broadway and a bigger West End theatre, selling prices a little bit higher. But it's all going to come down to timing. And that's the problem with the West End at the moment as a whole. Timing. Timing is not on anyone's side in the West End at the moment. So much wants to be on there, obviously, and we don't have enough spaces. The scale of the show feels perfect for a place like the Arts or the Ambassadors, or even a short run at the Garrick or something. However, it doesn't seem like it's going to get that, and I think it's such a shame, because so many people deserve to see this show. It's so important, there's so much representation. They've finally done a performance of this show which has cast it appropriately, with trans mask people, having the full band as well, being queer and trans people. This stuff matters. This stuff really matters. As a trans person, the difference between watching a cis person play a trans role and a trans person playing a trans role is monumental. Yes, we can see ourselves in a cis actor playing a trans role, I guess, if the writing is correct. But watching someone who is actually like us playing that role, it means so much more than you can know. Especially in a time where in the UK, a lot of things are not working out for trans people. Our government really hates us and is determined to keep us out of protection against conversion therapy, and more of our protections being taken away. I think it's really important to get a show like Hedwig into the West End, or a lot more representation into the West End. We are seeing it. We are seeing shows like & Juliet, the recent production of Legally Blonde. We're seeing more shows take up the task of giving trans representation. And I think a show like Hedwig, being this kind of explosion of queerness, of transness, is perfect for the West End at the moment. But someone needs to take the risk. We need to find a way to get rid of that traffic block. And it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be fun at all, because we're going to see so many shows close. However, I think it's important that we find a space for a show like Hedwig. Maybe not Hedwig. Maybe something else will come. It's very rare that you get musicals focused around trans people. So I'm thinking, if it's not Hedwig, what is it? All I can do is sit and hope. Will we get a West End transfer of Hedwig? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But does Hedwig deserve a West End transfer? Definitely. Thanks for coming to my rant, besties. If you want more rants and more reviews and more things like that, why don't you hit the subscribe button? It's right down there. It's pretty funky. And if you press it, I'll feel pretty good. And if you haven't already, hit that like button. It would be pretty cool. And also, go to the comments and share your thoughts. And if you have no thoughts, just type trans rights. Trans rights. Okay, besties. I'll see you next time. Bye.